all the people that can't be here. But Ashley, do you want to say something so you appear on my screen, please?
Fine.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. So I wanted to start off with, I always love doing introductions, but my way of introducing people is really not so much just about all the things you've done, the books you've written, the courses you've made, which I think we're going to get into, but really talk about who you are. And Ashley, what I've always experienced you is just this ravenous learner with this gigantic heart that really loves to make her difference in the world. And the thing, I love the look here. You're like, yeah, and what's really unique is, as I know, and we'll be talking more about, is you came into coaching with a purpose, and an audience and a background that you really wanted to bring your best. And, I'm just always in awe with how creative and how compassionate and also how collaborative you have been. And I think that's been a big key in where you are today, with a lot of pots on the fire and also, as we talked about a little bit earlier, trying to keep it all together and have that balance. So that being said, would you be open to maybe starting with, and just for everyone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to facilitate some questions with Ashley, and then I'm going to open up to general questions as well. So if you have something that you're really interested in hearing more about or asking Ashley, there's going to be a time for that. But I thought I'd spend a little bit of time kind of helping you all kind of get to know Ashley and what she's done as a whole person coach and ICF credentialed coach. But, I would love to hear a little bit more, again, about really what brought you into coaching. What was your why, and kind of why coaching even then? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so why coaching came from my dance background. And so I grew up as a dancer. I started competitive dance when I was 8 years old and did competitive dance from 8 to 18. And during that time, I really, especially my teenage years, I really struggled with my mindset and my mental health. I didn't have the language at that time. We weren't having conversations about that in dance at that time. And I went to a pretty large, pretty toxic dance studio.
Whoops. I'm sorry, Ashley. I was trying to, there was some background noise and I hit mute all. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're so good. And I really struggled with things like comparison, perfectionism, negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, things like that. And, at the time, I just thought it was me. I just thought that something was like inherently broken inside of me and I wasn't cut out for the dance world. And so I went to college and I got my degree in psychology. And a couple years into college, I started really missing dance. And so I started teaching dance at a local studio where I went to college. And I taught for 10 years. And during those 10 years is when I saw that I wasn't the only dancer struggling with these things. I saw it in so many of my dancers. And, I would watch as we would go to competitions and they would get really in their heads and have a lot of performance anxiety or limiting beliefs. Or we would go to convention classes and they would just shrink themselves and compare themselves to other dancers. And so after watching that for several years, I just thought, what are we doing in the dance community to help these dancers? I wanted them to have a different outcome than I had, and I wanted them to have the tools to really be able to support themselves as a whole person, not just a dancer. So I had always thought about coaching, like I had always been interested in the idea of coaching. And I just thought coaching was such a beautiful method to bring into the dance community and to help dancers. I really believe in coaching as a method of helping the whole person. And so it just seemed like the perfect fit to be able to help these dancers and give them some tools and resources to be able to navigate all these ups and downs that comes with being a dancer.
Yeah. And it sounds like almost that you noticed this while you were a dancer yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a dance teacher, you really saw this opportunity to kind of make a bigger difference in the industry, but also in really supporting your students and the community as a whole. Yeah.
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 So what has been, maybe tell a story about like one of the unexpected transformations that you've witnessed when someone came in
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I have one client that I've been working with for years, and when we started working together, she was going to a she was a university student in a really prestigious New York dance school, and she was just really struggling with her confidence and with her negative self-talk, and just she was not even able to go. She had a couple times she had like been called out to do a combo by herself, which is like a good thing. It's, a spotlight for dancers, and it's a compliment for them to be able to showcase their skills and stuff. And she had forgotten the combo and the choreography and just really froze, and so was very much stuck in that space. And so at the time that I met her, she was not even like, she was taking her dance classes at school, but like wasn't able to go out to the other dance studios in New York City where professional dancers train and take class. Like she just couldn't. There was a big block there, and she was just being so hard on herself. And after several months of working with her, we made a lot of progress. And the next year, she actually went from that to auditioning for the Radio City Rockettes Ensemble as an ensemble dancer and booked it her first audition. And so that was really, really exciting. And she actually just got rehired for I think this is going to be her third season going into it. For next Christmas season will be her third season. So continues to book it as well. And so that has been really cool just to see that shift with her and her be able to support herself, and get out of that space that she was in.
Beautiful. And I'm having memories because when I was very young, like 40 years ago, I got to go see the Rockettes in New York, and it was like
Mm,
the big thing. So that is like a
yeah.
like almost like a gold star in the dancing world. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to see her in person this last December. And it was such a cool experience. Like so fun to see her up on that stage and just know all that she's been through, and all the work that she's put in. So that was really rewarding.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you obviously know the client, but it almost sounded like there might have been kind of like a trauma response.
Yeah, absolutely. She was definitely like going out of her window of tolerance, and she was very much um yeah, she was really frozen in that space and wasn't able to get beyond it to go into class.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in those moments when you have someone and they're really stuck in that way, that it could be, window of tolerance is a tool in trauma-informed coaching that talks about someone who's in a stress zone that they can still be collaborative, communicative, trust themselves, but sometimes we can get into more of a hyper-aroused state where we see that anxiety or a collapsed or frozen state where we just freeze up. And it's a really, I like to think about the opossum type thing, but maybe not quite falling down on our needles and back. But when that happened, like what were some of the things that you brought into the coaching? How did you?
Mm, yeah. So at the beginning, we started with what her coaching goals were, with like what she wanted to get out of coaching. Um, and that was to be able to go take class, and to not freeze. And so from there, coaching is so client led that we really went wherever she needed to go. Some of the things that we worked on, we definitely did window of tolerance work, and just like explaining that model for her and explaining like how she can know when she is edging out of her window, and how to widen her window, and then also like what to do to get back in her window. So we used a lot of somatic skills for that, a lot of grounding, breath work, um, using her senses to bring herself back into the present moment. We used for that, and then from there, we just really worked on building her confidence. So, what are her strengths? What can she do really well? What is she bringing into the dance space? How can we amplify those, to build her confidence? And so that's where we started.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is it sounds like you were helping her to kind of self-regulate and self-soothe. I'm
Yes.
using kind of trauma terms right now. And Ashley's been through the trauma program, so I should say we're geeking out a little bit in the lingo. I wanted to just be aware of that. But also really, so working from the body up and then from, the mind down, top, top to bottom, bottom to top,
Mhm.
um, really helping her to find that resourcefulness within.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So has there been a client where maybe you felt a little bit challenged?
Hmm. Yeah. Um,
Oh, that's good popcorn
yeah,
questions.
I've been doing this for a lot of years, I'm sure. There have been, so, you know, one, so something that's coming to mind for me is just, and we worked on this a lot in coaching and then also in trauma informed, but just really like letting go of the feeling that we have to fix anything. So I feel like that's been a personal journey for me of just like stepping back and um really coaching from that standpoint of like they are fully resourceful and this is their journey. And so that comes up sometimes, especially like since I do work with a younger demographic a lot. And then also some trying to think of difficult clients. um
And can I jump in for a moment?
yes.
Because I think what you said there is so important because you do work with, I mean, fairly young up through teenage, a little bit above 18 to 20s,
Hmm. Hmm.
so there could certainly be that need, and I'm going to use a term that I don't think would accurately represent you, but a little bit of mothering or wanting to the above,
Yes.
because there's a little less experience and maybe even the brain development isn't there. And so just
Yep.
recognizing that that could be a big barrier, for the nurture that wants to come in and also fix.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So how
No,
do you
that is
solve that?
that nurturing side comes up and I have to pull it back and just be that, I can be nurturing without trying to fix them, and creating that safe space for them to explore themselves and get to know themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to shift gears for a moment because I know something, that you did that is pretty magical is you started the program, I think January 2020. And then you went on to do the group transformational leader work. You also went on to do the trauma work. And, one of the things that people always ask about is like, how do I create goop? And how do we create goop and group coaching programs? And I love when you were sharing about how, you took what you were learning and then you brought it into a program. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, as far as my work with groups, is that
Yeah, like how, because you mentioned about, a lot of the individual work really helped you to kind of hit the bullseye on the group work.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, I also, in addition to my one-on-one coaching that I do within my own coaching business, I also am on faculty for a dance convention. So for quick reference, like if you're not familiar with the dance competition world, a dance convention is a organization or a company that they have a faculty, set faculty of famous dancers, choreographers, teachers, and they travel city to city throughout a season. So they go, on weekends, city to city, and the dancers, youth dancers from like 5 years old to 18, plus their teachers and parents, come to these conventions for the weekend, and they take class in all different dance styles and learn different combinations and techniques and all different things. And the one that I work for is really passionate about bringing mindset and mental health and skills for well-being for dancers and really seeing the whole dancer. And so I teach seminars for them, um, for all different age groups. And the thing that's really helped me going from one-on-one to group is I always look for themes and patterns that I'm hearing in my clients. I take pretty good notes, and I keep track of like what am I hearing, what are they needing right now, and it's really interesting. Usually there's like 3 or 4 clients that are struggling or wanting to work on a similar thing, and that's usually my key of like, okay, this would be great to do at the convention, at the conference, because that way, if these dancers are feeling it, I feel like it's a sign that more dancers need it too. So that's been just kind of being curious about patterns and themes that I hear in one-on-one coaching to inform what I'm going to do in group coaching.
Yeah. And I love that. So it's not so much you made it up, but you're actually relying on data and experience relevant to your target audience and then
Yep.
using it to form these groups. Would you be willing to share how you got involved with the convention, the travel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually just found me. And so it was interesting. A couple years before they found me, I just randomly, I was pretty new coach, but I had this just dream one day of like, I wonder if I could do this for a convention. I grew up as a convention competition kid, going almost every weekend in the spring, and I was like, what a great platform to like reach so many dancers, and so I just kind of sat on that for a couple years and would talk about it to different people, being like, oh, this would be really cool. I wonder if this could ever work, but just kept kind of putting it out there. And then I randomly got an email one day about a new convention that was starting, and they had found me on Instagram. And then also there's an organization called Doctors for Dancers, which puts together a network of dance specialists. So any type of specialist who's working with dancers. So there's like therapists, strength trainers, um, psychologists, coaches, all different types of people who are working with dancers. And you have to be credentialed and have insurance to be affiliated with their network. And so I'm in their network and on their website. And so after they saw me on Instagram, they then saw me there and they were like, okay, yep, this is great. This is a great person. So they emailed me and we had a phone interview. And it's been such a great fit. Like it's such a beautiful community. The founder and director of the convention, she was only like 22 maybe when she started it. And so it's a young staff and it's a lot of energy and really fun. And she has such a vision for the change that she wants to bring to the dance community. So it's been really cool to be a part of that. Be a part of that space. Yeah.
Yeah. And I recall you talking about, how it's very collaborative too. And
Yes.
all these
Yeah,
different
it is.
practitioners. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the whole conference faculty has been so supportive and so collaborative. Like we all get along so well. There's not any of us that are um like outside of the group or anything. Like we all just gel really well. And then specifically there are three of us who do um more seminar based classes instead of teaching a combination or a dance technique. And so there's a mental health therapist who she's also a hip hop dancer and hip hop choreography, and then her during the day job is as a mental health therapist. So she brings in mental health tools for the dancers and does a seminar in mental health, and then I do mine. And then we also have Allison Stoner, who they were a child actor, dancer, and now they saw what that really like the need for like somatic skills and movement for dancers and for artists. And so they have a company called Movement Genius that they founded, where they bring in somatic skills for artists. And so they do a somatic movement based class at the convention. And it's so collaborative. Like we all touch base on like what we're doing for the weekends. And it really just has worked so well. And we just complement each other really well with our three different voices and what we do in each class. It's just been really beautiful to see how it flows together.
Yeah. And what I love about it is you're creating a solution in partnership with other people. So
Mm.
it's not so much one person trying to do it all. But I also love the story of how they found you on Instagram and then also in the is it Doctors for Dancers?
Mhm.
Yeah. I just kind of putting out to everyone here. It's like, it's so important to create those relationships, create those collaborations, because those can be great referrals, but also putting yourself out there, on multiple sites. I know you've got your fun Instagram, but also, are there directories or are there other collaborations? Because I love that, they checked you out before.
Mhm.
And it works, if you've got a profile out there, not in just one place, but, multiple places.
Yeah, it's really helped. And honestly, the collaboration with Doctors for Dancers, and then there's another company called Apollo Performance that they have a patented shock absorbing sock for dancers and athletes. And they're just like the most amazing humans. And I've developed such a great relationship with them over the past several years. One time I had been following them, and then one time they just randomly were sent out an Instagram story about looking for blog contributors, and that they wanted to speak to the whole dancer, not just technical stuff. And I was like, I can do that. And so I submitted my resume and had a phone interview with them. And it's been such a beautiful relationship. I've done so many blog contributions for them. And then they've also referred me. They've been so generous in conversations with other people, for other speaking events or group coaching or whatever, mentioning my name and my work. So it really has, those two networks and those two relationships have been really impactful, in the direction of my career.
Yeah. And what I love is you're partnering with people that are in the field, but they're not coaches,
Yep.
which is,
Yeah.
so you bring that value add.
Hmm.
So I'd love to shift over to something that I get asked all the time is, if you coach the younger ones and there's parents involved, how do you work with that? And it's the same thing of a stakeholder with an organization, but it's like you've got the client and then the parent that I would imagine has a goal of their kiddo making it on a big stage.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, ooh, I will say I've had really wonderful experiences with the parents, but I also have like really upfront boundaries with them. And so the onboarding process that happens with the minors, so any dancer under 18, is there. I have an initial free phone consultation with just their parent. Every once in a while, if it's a teenager, they'll ask if they can join too, just to hear and talk about it. And I'm like, absolutely. But usually it's just with the parent. And that is, a consultation just to see, like, hear about what their dancer is struggling with, hearing about what they're wanting, seeing if I'm a good fit, if it's within my scope. Um, and then going over my policies and the coaching process. And so I am upfront that, like, I love to hear what their coaching goals are for their kid, or what they think that they need to get out of coaching, but ultimately it is going to be the dancer's coaching goals that we're going to focus on, and it's going to be client led, client being the dancer. And then also confidentiality. So I tell all the parents that my confidentiality policy is that everything that their kiddo says in session is 100% confidential on my end. The kiddo is welcome to tell the parents whatever they want, but on my end, it's confidential unless they say something that leads me to believe they or someone else are in danger or harm. Then I say, hey, I think we need to bring this up to parents. And then we have that conversation. And then, but I do include the parent in the process, in a couple of ways, which I have found really helpful, and really giving them enough information and making them feel a part of it, with still protecting the dancer's space and boundaries. And the way that I do that is, after each session, I email the parent a summary of topics that we covered and any coaching tools that we used. I've found that that is really helpful in terms of them having conversations with their kids, and having like shared language about, like, oh, this tool that you learned. I don't tell them, any context really, or what anything that their dancer said, just the topics and the tools that we worked on. And then throughout the coaching process, when most dancers, I start on a 6-session coaching package. I found that that's just a great way. 6 sessions I found to be a really great number to see some progress and see where they want to go after that. And during those 6 sessions, I also include 2 20-minute phone check-ins with the parents. Again, I like to hear their perspective. I like to hear what they're seeing. It's really helpful for me to hear that. And then I can answer any questions. So many of them have so many questions about, like, okay, what do I do when my dancer does this? Or we're at competition and she's, melting down about performing. What do I do? So really just giving some consulting on that as well has been really helpful. So that the coaching isn't just for the kiddo. It's, we're really trying to help the whole family and the parent kiddo relationship.
Beautiful. And it reminds me of when we were talking about, like even at the conferences, sometimes, it's not just the dancers, but it's the parents and other teachers and other practitioners that are coming and working with you. And so really looking at touching with the coaching on so many different levels.
Yes. Yeah. During the conference weekends, I also have at least one, sometimes two seminars with the dance teachers and then the dance parents. And honestly, the dance parent one is maybe my favorite of the weekend. Like, I love the dancers, don't get me wrong. The dancers are, but the parents are so, it just makes me feel hopeful that, like, it's landing and that these things are being taken home and talked about. And it's just been so beautiful, as I'm a parent myself, and so being able to, like, relate to them in that way, and share my experience and share some coaching tools has been really wonderful.
Yeah. I love how you just lit up when you talked about that.
Yeah, I
I think
do.
there's,
I love the parent hour.
yeah, and I know, having worked with a lot of coaches, or I shouldn't say not worked with them, but, trained or been part of trainings with a lot of people that do work with, family systems. The ultimate goal is that the family is participating.
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
sounds like you've got some richness there with that willingness and readiness to maybe be supportive as a parent in maybe a little different way than the traditional parent role might look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, are you open to taking a couple questions from anybody here?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Yeah. So I would love to know, I'm going to switch to gallery view. Um, and I'd wondered, Nitin, do you have a question? I know you just popped in.
I do have a question, but I'm going to wait. Um,
You're going to wait?
well, I'm sure the question will get asked, and then I can just hold on to my question and it'll be answered.
Oh, can I
But I
challenge
can
you to
ask
ask?
if you
Go for it.
would like me to go
I would
ahead.
like you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it's so inspiring to hear you, Ashley. It's it's amazing. Your journey sounds awesome, and thank you for being here. Um, I have a little bit more specific question about um, the you said, hey, it takes you, it's about 6 sessions for you to see a difference. um, and I was curious, um, as how you package the 6 hours, and then what's and I'm sure experience plays into it, but I'm just curious to hear in your own words as to what you find is the change, and then how do you package that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I used to offer both 6 and 12 session packages, and then I just switched to 6. And after the 6, they can stay on for once or twice a month sessions, and then that just keeps rolling until they want to stop or need to stop or want to take a break or whatever. And so the 6 sessions has just, I found it where we build that rapport, we build that relationship, they get some really good tools, and they get to test the tools out, and so usually that'll take, I try to have sessions once a week, once every other week, with when we're in the 6 session package. But with competition season, which is springtime, a lot of dancers are doing, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. And so sometimes they can get spaced out. But I've just found that we have a lot of time in those 6 sessions to test different techniques and tools and coaching methods, and then come back and they can reflect on that, and I can, we can go from there. And then the way that I structure it, so I include in the package And I list on my website like what's included, and I found that that's helpful too. But I include in the package the free consult with their parent or guardian at the beginning, and then the 20-minute phone check-ins with their parent, and then the email support that I offer. I say that that's included with the package. And then I send each dancer a notebook or journal in the mail beforehand, to keep notes, and that's where like they can jot down their homework or what they're going to reflect on for the week or the tools that they're going to be using. And a lot of the dancers will take that notebook to competition with them as a resource so that they can then use it there. And so I structure that, and I have and then I do 2 price points. They can either pay for it in whole, 1 payment, or they can do 2 payments. And yeah, that's how I start. Does that answer the question? Okay.
It does. I was unmuted. Yeah, it does answer the question. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, and if I could echo or add into that, I feel like sometimes it's really helpful if your audience hasn't done a lot of coaching up front, is to create that lower bar entry. Because I know she said 12, and then now you're just doing 6. You know, I don't know about you, but what you're experiencing, I'd love to hear it. I find hey, here's your 5 or 6 sessions, and then they feel comfortable because it's a lower dollar amount, lower time commitment, and then they get hooked.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is, I would say the majority of my clients stay on then for once a month, twice a month sessions after the 6-session package.
Thank you. Cool. Who else would like to ask Ashley a question? Nominee?
Question. Yeah, hi. I think you had mentioned earlier, and this kind of is similar to the previous question, or is connected, but you mentioned earlier that you had a client for like over a year that you had been working with. Is that a norm, or you're finding that people will kind of continue for a longer period versus just the first few months?
It depends on the client. I have some clients who just do the 6-session package, and then they're like, great, I got the tools, we feel good, we're going to go practice these. And then sometimes they'll pop back up 6 months from them then and say, hey, can I do a session, or can I do a once a month session, you know? And I work with them, and we figure out what frequency could work from there. And then I do have a few clients. So the client that I mentioned, that we did do the 6 session, and then I think she stayed on for once a month for quite a while she was still in college, because she really needed that like once a month check-in and time to go over skills and keep exploring stuff. And so she stayed on, and then after that she would just do drop-in sessions with me. And so it was just basically like she would just schedule with me when she needed. And so once they've gone through that 6-session and so yeah, that's typical. So some of them there's only a handful that I've had for like multiple years, but it usually is not a super intensive. It's like a once a month
check-in.
Just seeing how they're doing, getting those tools refreshed, having that safe space for them to continue exploring.
Gotcha. Okay. Can I ask one more question? So I think Parosha, you'd mentioned the Instagram channel. How are you using your social platforms? Is it like a different role for each one? Or are you using it to recruit people, or just push out messaging?
Yeah. So right now I'm only using Instagram, and I use it sparingly. Like I don't even, that's something that I kind of do this. I have enough content on there that I really love and I'm really proud of, and I think is really, really helpful. But it's directly talking to dancers and dance teachers and dance parents, and just using the different coaching skills and tools and concepts and topics that come up a lot for dancers that I work with, and putting through whether it's like a quick tool that they can use, or some breath work, or a somatic exercise, or just like exploring comparison or perfectionism. And so I don't post a ton, but I post enough that I have a little audience, somewhat of an audience. And they're pretty engaged too. Like I have lots of like Instagram friends that do similar stuff or like different stuff for dancers, but something to help dancers. And so it is, I do feel like it's this little community, even though I don't post a ton. So
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
And it almost reminds me that, you know, if you're not a big fan of social media and posting, that, you know, and I wanted to echo what Ashley says, if you have enough out there, it's like you have a presence.
yes,
And you're feeding it, but that's maybe not going to be your pipeline where, you know, because it takes quite a bit to build a pipeline with social media, especially today, and especially with there just being so much already that's hitting people's phones. But that presence, just going like, okay, I can go here, I can see that this person has X amount of posts, I can kind of dive in, and then my mind is going to divert me to something else. But now I know this person exists and they're more tangible. And it's same with blog posts too, that a lot of times people think you have to publish every week, and it's like, no, you know, you'd be better off publishing a longer, more useful post less frequently, and that's going to help Google because it's going to see it as more valuable than, you know, here's my quick thing. They're going to see more of a as a resource, but also, again, you know, less and deeper, more meaningful can be more powerful than that repetition. Yeah.
I have a question for Ashley.
Guy,
So
Guy, hold on a second. Sorry, Emmanuel's had his hand up for quite a while.
I can't find the hand up thing. Where's it
Okay,
at?
I'll call on you next after.
Yeah, I need to find it.
It's at the very bottom.
I know I'm looking. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's called React, I believe. Yeah. And anyways, Ashley, thank you for the talk, or for what you've shared. You mentioned it's just like it's more client-led, and so do you have any like prescriptions? Do you lead them through a guided path, I guess is the best way to put it here, to say it, or is it not like that?
not really, but it typically, there are very similar things that most clients want to work on. I've seen, you know, a lot of patterns, and what I've actually done too to help, because sometimes, especially with the kids, like they sometimes need some context and you know, some help getting their thoughts organized and what they want to work on, and so I do have a self-assessment that I've created that goes through, and I do it with them in the first session. If I can tell that like they know they want help and need help, but they're not quite sure like how or why, I have, it's these 12 statements, and we go through them and they rate them 0 to 10 on how much they agree with them. And so it's statements like, I get very nervous and anxious before competition, and I believe that these nerves affect my performance, or I compare myself to other dancers and it results in XYZ, you know. And so it's these different statements to just kind of see where there's one about body image, there's one about perfectionism, there's one about
Got it.
disappointing others. So yeah, I use that as kind of and then from there, I give them the autonomy every session of like, okay, based on this or anything new that comes up, where do you want to go? What do you want to work on today?
So then, say sessions 2, 3, 4, 5, and if they're just kind of like scattered all over the place, obviously you just adapt accordingly. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, just adapt accordingly and pick a focus for every session at the beginning, just helping them define that focus and what they want to work on that day, whether that's like a specific area of dance, a specific area of yeah, just the thing that they need help with the most that day, and then we go from there.
And then one more, since you said it's a 6-package thing and it's unstructured, other than the first call, it seems like, I guess it's working for you. I guess when I'm building a package, I don't know, I'm always structured, and maybe I shouldn't be, but I don't know exactly how to ask this question, but I feel like if I'm doing a program, I want more structure built around it, but maybe clients just want like a sounding board. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and there is structure within each session. It's just that they're going to pick the structure. Like it's going to be what they want to focus on, and then I'm going to use my coaching skills and coaching tools to support them and where we are going with that. So I'm during these coaching sessions, I'm giving them tools, I'm giving them coaching exercises, but it's just based on like where they want to focus each time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I think I might have a good metaphor because it almost sounds like you give them an assessment. Through that assessment, you're starting to kind of like, okay, this is more about anxiety. Maybe this could be helpful. This is more about mindset around appearance, like I'm just making stuff up here. So, and then from that, they've created their own menu of options. And then for each session, they look at their menu and pick what option that they want.
Yes. Yep.
And then you get to do the spontaneous magic as opposed to this week, we're going to work on self-doubt. Next week, we're going to work on inner critic I don't know, there's kind of the same thing. But anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor for OSHA. Yes, like a menu. So it's coming from them. I find that so important too with the dancers, and especially youth dancers who they often don't have a lot of autonomy in their lives. So creating that within our sessions has been really powerful for them.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
And Sky.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I found the hand.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks for the coaching. I needed it.
Well, I've been living in Zoom for like 6 years at this point.
Yeah,
it's almost.
There's all the at the
There's a
bottom.
downside to Zoom too.
At the bottom, there used to be like 3 things, and now there's 12. So.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Ashley, somebody like me, I'm a teen or a young gal. How are you handling someone that's got so many ideas, so many things, anxiety, high energy, is all over the board? How do you hone in the client that is so overwhelmed, they're not sure what they need or want, and they answer the 12 statements per se, and at that point in time they think it all applies to them and they need help in all of it? How do you narrow it down to start with the gym?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think just even from my experience, after the self-assessment, I've heard that it helps them really clarify their thoughts and organize their thoughts and organize the coaching goals for them. And so at the end of that first session, I will usually have them like, okay, based on what we just talked about with the self-assessment and what you learned about yourself from that, jot down, what's coming up for you right now as the biggest thing that you want to work on, or what are your first couple of coaching goals that you want to focus on in the next couple sessions. And my experience has been that they're usually very quick to be able to recognize what those are. If they are too overwhelmed and in their head about it, then I would do Roche and I have actually been working on this lately with my mentor coaching, but going more into their body and more into somatic work to help them ground. And then from there, we can explore what feels biggest and most important from them.
Okay, and the other question is, I just tried to do a coaching session last night with someone, and who is a friend, to see kind of like what's it like, even though she's a friend. She's showing up with trauma, which it's not my specialty, nor do I plan on specializing in. And I would try to take her back to one spot in one space. But then how do you deal with the client that keeps on going back to this, I don't know, what would be the word for it, just sporadic. They keep on wanting to go back to that ball of chaos, and you're trying to get them grounded. You're going into their body, and you've gone through some questions. What is maybe a technique that you've used to like, okay, you're going back there, trying to get them anchored into the one space just to start the work that's really going to help them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the trauma-informed coach training that I did with Ferocia was really, really helpful with that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go through that certification, because not that I necessarily want to focus on clients with trauma. It's out of our scope to treat trauma as coaches. And so, but I wanted to be informed and educated on how to notice trauma and notice what's happening and when clients are in that space, and then have some tools. So in the training, we learned a lot of different tools, whether it was, we did grounding techniques, creating a safe space, a safe container for them. And it will, I think too, as a coach, telling yourself that with clients like that, it will take more than one session, right? Like it's not, every session, like it might be a work in progress. And then also knowing when something is out of your scope. So being able to be like, okay, this is out of my scope. I think that you could be better helped with someone in this field, and then helping them get set up with somebody in that field too.
Okay, so for Ferocia, there's a separate, or is that part of the ACC trainings? There's separate.
It's a separate class that's deep dive into the trauma-informed work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Actually, that answers all my questions, because that was another in the back of my mind. It's like, how do I handle this situation when, exactly what you said, I'm not a therapist, and the interesting part, but the truth is almost every person we're ever going to coach is going to come from a seed of trauma one way or another. And it's not the seed that I know how to, nor do I want to go into, but to learn some basics of going into the body, which is going into a place I'm very comfortable in going into. I can still offer them something and give them a giveaway, and then maybe refer them to maybe somebody else for trauma therapy or something like that. Would that be correct, Ferocia?
In short, yes. And I think what I love is you're offering a lot of the pieces that it's very dynamic, and really being able to witness in the moment what's happening in the client state. So.
Okay, thank you. That was like perfect. I had this last night, and then Ashley starts to pull into there, and I'm like, oh my God.
I highly recommend the course.
Okay.
I decided to do it before I started doing big groups, because I was like, I'm gonna have somebody in a big group sometime that is gonna have a trauma response. And yes, I have. And so it's been really, really helpful to bring consent into my coaching and bring it into my group coaching, especially when there are so many people there. And I just learned so much. Like it was so helpful for my own trauma, and then just like as a human, and then especially working with clients and knowing, I just feel so much more prepared and educated on how to help clients when they have a traumatic past or have a trauma response.
Can I ask one, or ask one more thing, Ferocia? Is there somebody else who has their hand raised?
There's about 5 people in line.
Okay, I'm not going to ask a question, but
if you want to put it in the chat box.
Yeah, it's about the fix it, as trying to fix it, still wanting to fix it. So maybe somebody else will pull that up as you want to lean into that. So yes, I will put it in the chat box. Thank you.
Perfect. Kathy, I believe your hand was up, and then Nitin, and then I've got Tanvir and then Linda.
Yeah, I was interested in the assessment, but I'm assuming with what I do, I need to make or create or find something that I can use to put on my website to be able to assess clients from my website. Is that correct?
Tell me more.
Well, I work with women, and they usually have stuck behaviors, and they're all unique. Their journeys are all unique, and that's one of the reasons why I took the trauma-informed class, was I often see that within my women, and they do not want necessarily, because I have a list of therapists and other places that they can go for help. But some of them choose to stay within the group that I do, or working one-on-one because they just don't have that kind of money to be in a therapist, I guess. But as I'm realizing I need to charge more than I do, but at the same time, I want to be able to help those, who can't afford it. And I have a lot of women who just can't afford it. So, but I want to get as much knowledge. But anyway, the assessment, I want to be able to, if I want to get clients from my website or whatever, you mentioned an assessment. And I don't know if I should do like a trauma assessment, or do I do like a stuck behavior? And do I do it out of their own verbiage? Because I've had lots of women sitting in front of me, and I do have lots of things written down. Do I take what I've heard from them and build where I see the patterns of similarities with my clients?
Yeah, I think that could be a really helpful tool. And it could also be like, as far as like marketing, that could be good to have on your website, as far as just like different things that you could help them with and different common themes that you see. As far as the assessment, it's not on my website because I have a lot on my website of like, it's like, okay, are you experiencing these things as a dancer? What would it be like to shift into these things instead? And then the assessment will be more, I use it in my one-on-one sessions to really just give them that menu of options for where to go. When they come in with so many things that they want to work on, the assessment is great for getting them grounded and in a place to start. And then from there, they can pick and choose.
Okay, because I kind of use in the welcome letter a bunch of questions, and usually my first session with them is getting to know them through them answering those questions. So maybe that's the same thing of knowing.
It's probably pretty similar.
Huh?
It's probably really similar. Yeah.
Is there a website? My niece is a dancer and a teacher of dance. She's also an aerial, and we have conversations often of some of the students that she has, and wanting to be able to, I think, grow and help, because she's also has some of the counseling behind her. I mean, she took psychology through her degree, but she's a dancer.
Yeah.
And a ballerina.
Kathy, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I've got 3 people.
Okay, no problem.
But what I was going to say is I will have Ashley put her website in the thing. And then if you're interested in follow-on conversations, if you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we go, I'll add my website and my email to the chat box.
Perfect.
Thank
I
you.
think we've got Nitin.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. Nitin, did you have another question?
Yeah, so Ashley, you obviously have experience going through a certain journey, and a lot of the clients are going through maybe similar hurdles, if I might. And so how do you shift between the client finding their own resourcing versus your leveraging your experiences, and how do you walk that fine line?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think. I think Ferocious training and like whole person coaching training and ICF certification training has really, really helped with that, because we're really taught in coach training to remove our experience, and just come in with the mindset that the client is fully resourceful, and that we are a vessel in which they are going to explore these different parts of themselves. So I really try to, when I first meet with clients, I share a shortened version of my story and how I got here. And then after that, I really try to take myself out of it. And really just come in from the perspective of their coach, who probably has experienced the same stuff. But even if I think it in my head of like, oh, I've been through this too, or oh my gosh, I try to just really like keep that inside and go where they go and let them lead. And then, you know, there are always times and places for, like in my group work that I do, I have found storytelling really helpful. And so that is a time where then I can share some of my personal experiences, and then they can relate to that and feel that common humanity.
Thank you.
I'd probably add into that a lot of times, you know, as a coach, because we're really helping them to figure things out and not going, well, when I was doing this, this is what I did. But we
Yes.
can still tell those stories on our website, in speaking gigs, on podcast. There's a huge platform. And then if you do that, then you don't feel the need, because now you're like, yeah, I got heard, seen, and witnessed. Woo! And now I'm here to do the same for you as my client. So
Yep, absolutely.
I think Linda had her hand up, and then I'll go to Tanvir. Is Linda still here, or did Linda need to go back to
I
work?
think she dropped.
Okay. All right, Tanvir.
Thanks, Hiroshia. Hi, Ashley. I just had, well, there are two quick questions. One was, I was wondering if you're using any tools, automation tools for, you know, to help you with the admin side of your business. I'll
Yeah,
come with the second question after that. Yeah, please go on.
sure. Yeah, and that's something that's still, like, this many years that I'm still working on, and you know, I feel like it's a constant practice of what to do next. I do use Calendly for my scheduling, and I found that that's really, really helpful. I have different links for my different types of sessions, and I send those out, and the ones to schedule the free consult are on my website. And so I use Calendly for that. And then I'm trying to think of if I have anything else automated. I do have the people who have the monthly. So after the 6-session package, if they stay on for monthly, I do have that automated, that they get an invoice monthly, and then they get a reminder, an automated reminder too, if they haven't paid it. And then I think that's it. Yeah. Everything else I do on my end, just one-on-one.
Okay, great. And the second question I had was, given you said it's a 6-session program, is there any expectation that you set at the beginning, or that comes up as to what are they going to achieve by the end of the program?
You know, that's a good question. Not necessarily, except for the things that we talk about with on their consultation and with their first session. It's just, I just make sure that the things that they want to accomplish are within my scope. But then it's also, I don't make any like guarantees or promises, because it's really up to them, if they are going to put in the work, and if they are going to, you know, show up and be authentic and, you know, practice the things. And so I don't make any guarantees, but I do say, I give examples of past experiences of other clients that have, you know, had transformations and progress. And then I'm usually able to tell, I'm able to tell the parents, like, yes, this is within my scope, we can absolutely work on these things. And so I frame it more like that, like, yes, we're going to work on these things. These are things that they can get some tools and resources for in our sessions, but I don't make any promises.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I wanted to echo into that. And then Ashley, I'm going to ask you a question of any words of wisdom as we goes up. But sometimes when clients come to us, you know, doing the Web of Life or some similar assessment, and just say, these are the goals and things we're going to focus on during the coaching relationship. And then, of course, when we're onboarding, saying, you know, that you're choosing to focus on all these things. And, you know, if you play full on and participate, I'm going to be right there meeting you in the middle. But if suddenly you decide to run off and get married, you know, your goals might not get accomplished. And I usually will use an example like that. I said, so it's a matter of, you know, can you stay on track? Because manifesting these goals isn't just about having the conversation. It's about fulfilling the actions and staying accountable, which will certainly help you to do.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd love, as we close up, so first of all, thank you, everyone. Awesome questions. I know we're a little bit after the hour, which means people probably need to pop up, but do you have any final words that you'd like to share? Wisdom from afar, 4 years down the road?
I think my words of wisdom is just like trust yourself and believe in whatever idea you have. At the time that I started this, I knew nobody else that did this for dancers. And even I had some friends be like, huh, is that gonna work? You know, and so I just really had this vision, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make it work. I don't know. We're gonna find out. And now over the past several years, I found so many more people that do similar things that I do with dancers. And so it's just really, I just had to trust myself and trust my idea and trust this passion that was in me, and that I would figure it out. I didn't have to have it all figured out to start it. Yeah, and I'll put my website and email in the chat too if you all, I am more than happy to, so that's my website, ashleymowrey.com, and then Ashley at ashleymowrey.com is my email.
Have you hit send yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, was that, oh, never mind, sorry, that was, sorry, hang on.
Did you
I
send it?
accidentally did that to a direct message. Okay, ashleymowrey.com and then Ashley at ashleymowrey.com.
Beautiful. Thank you.
There it is. Yeah, thank you, everyone. This was wonderful.
So thank you so much, Ashley. As always, you are a fountain of wisdom and a bringer of hope and light.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this for all of us. And I'll send out the recording, you know, and if you want to share it, you can share it too. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It was so great meeting you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.